Hello, my name is Martell Fontenot. I'm a student at Southern University, A&M College, and I'm doing a presentation on align your calendar to what matters. This podcast has 4 main points that I discovered. Doing what is in your best interest. If you do not plan, something will plan it for you. Traction, and deciding what time to block. This podcast talks about time management. But not only does it talk about time management, but Nir and Dave talk about distractions and how they affect people. Based on Nir's book, Indistractable, he gives tips on how to plan your days, weeks, months, or just what you have to do. Nir also talks about how people do not plan what they value. For example, if someone values their health, they should plan to go to the gym. But when you ask people who work daily and they say they value their health, they don't say that they go to the gym daily, but that's what they value. And this is what Nir is trying to say, that people do not make time out of the day to do what they value the most. Nir goes on to say that if we don't make plans, something will make a plan for us. He really emphasized that technology makes plans for us. He then shares statistics on how much time people spend on social media while they're at work. Nir mentions traction throughout the podcast. Traction simply means actions we take that move us forward. For example, a woman who is a graphic designer that has good traction will make a time slot out of her day to review her work and to study what is in demand for graphic design. Not having good traction would be her going to work, reading, reviewing, and then coming straight home. Throughout the simple process of going to work and coming home, she could have been distracted by her boss, her phone, her husband, or her kids. The problem with that is that people miss out on the opportunities that have their best interests at heart. So studying and reviewing what would be in demand for graphic design will be in her best interest because she will be ahead of the game with any other graphic designers competition in her area. Nir mentions what times to block on your schedule. When a person plans their days or weeks, that person should go day by day on what's more important throughout their schedule. Nir gives that example in the podcast. He mentions him planning his weeks and days out towards the end of the podcast. He mentions the time that he spends with his daughter. He gives the example of him spending time with his daughter on Monday, but him spending more time with his daughter on Tuesday. But he also says that he gives up some of his writing time on Tuesday to spend more time with his daughter. The podcast was very clear on the information that it provided. The only problem that I have is that it did not provide any information on students, student athletes, or anybody who would be in school or at a university. What was new to me out of this podcast was the word traction. Nir said that it means actions we take that move us forward. So I assess that as when I wake up and plan my day and what I'm going to do, I ask myself, what am I going to do? What actions am I going to take so that I can put myself in situations that's going to make me better professionally, athletically, any aspect of my life? What am I going to do to make myself better? The word traction did change how I perceive things, because originally I would just go throughout my day and not expecting anything to happen. And what I mean by that is that I would just go with the flow. I didn't plan anything. For example, I don't plan to go to study hall at a certain time. I would just go after class or after lunch, or I would go lift weights recreationally during this time. But after listening to the podcast and knowing how traction would affect your life positively, I now take time out of my day to make a time to go to study hall after class, a specific time. For example, like 2 to 4, I would go to study hall and then go to recreational weights from 6 to 8. That's how I perceive things now after listening to the podcast. There is just one thing I would like to explore further that I wish the podcast did, and that would be making time management for student athletes or students at a university. Because we all struggle with time management, and I would love to hear from a professional who studied time management, their intake on how a college student could manage their time way better than the average college student does. A connection I have with the podcast from a class that I took in the spring of 2019 will be distractions during my marketing project. I had a marketing project in spring of 2019, and my professor always told my group that we needed more research. And so when we always got together, we would think that we're doing more research, but I've noticed now after listening to the podcast that we were distracted by our phones, which would be technology, and also other research that wasn't related to the topic. So this podcast helped me compare that situation to what Nir and Dave was talking about. An example that I can give that relates to this podcast is myself not making time to go participate with clubs and activities in the College of Business. I'm a student athlete. I play football for Southern University Agricultural Mechanical College, and I am in the College of Business. There's lots of clubs in the College of Business, such as NABA and the Finance Club. And throughout my day, I hear that they have meetings, but I never planned to go to those meetings. And I get distracted by other things, such as hanging out with my teammates or something else, because I wasn't making the allotted time for those meetings, and I miss out on opportunities that will benefit me later.